Hi, and welcome to the Scenic Route podcast. This is the show for building a successful and sustainable business on your terms. My name is Jen, and I'm a rebranding sociologist with a soft spot for rhubarb pie. Each week, I'll strive to expand your branding, business expertise, and mindset capacity. I'm so excited you're here, and now let's get into today's episode.
Nadia Gabrielle is a guide and mentor for business owners and non-business owners. She is also the creative mind behind Project Just Invited, an Instagram safe space for projectors with a sense of humor. Merging her business background in brand building, design thinking, and service design with her 12 plus years of experience working in the creative wellness and self-development space, Nadia uses conscious strategic tools and subconscious capacity building to help her clients set themselves up for success in their lives and businesses by providing support at the points where strategy and capacity meet. Nadia, welcome to the Scenic Route podcast. How are you?
Hello, Jennifer. Thank you for having me. I'm wonderful. Thank you. How are you?
I am actually so super excited. And hey, so for anyone listening who might have not heard of you yet, can you briefly walk us through your story? Like how you started, how you got where you today, the pivotal crossroads, the big moments.
Absolutely. Well, I'm Nadia and I am half Sicilian, half Moroccan. My parents actually met in London in the 80s, but then I was born and raised in Switzerland. And then in terms of work, I work at the intersection of business and self-development, which really sort of nicely marries my two areas of expertise and my two different backgrounds. So on one hand, I've got my more academic, professional, more corporate background in business. And for me specifically, I chose an interdisciplinary field that kind of zooms in on where business and design and tech meet, and personally specialize in design thinking, service design, bit of product design, which makes up most of what I do with my clients. And then I also, a little bit of a hippie and bit of a Sicilian witch, as those who know me know, and always have been interested in the underlying energetics and the psychological principles of what we see on the surface in life and in business. And so, yeah, I mean, we could double click here and go much deeper, but I'm going to leave it at that and just say that I have these two areas of expertise, and that's what I blend in my work. I'm happy and grateful that I get to do that every day, because I literally had to make this job up because it didn't exist. Right? For like a decade, I was going in one direction, then feeling like I was missing out, and then going in the other direction and feeling like I was missing out, until finally at some point I was like, I guess I'm just going to have to literally make this up, build this myself. And I have, and
Oh, this resonates so much with me. And this is so true though for everyone starting business, right? Like most of us, or a lot of us, start with starting the business with something they're really good at.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're a good writer, you're a good designer, you're good whatever.
And everyone's like, you should be doing this for work.
Yeah.
And they're like,
oh,
really?
Okay.
Do you think I'm good enough?
I get paid for that. And then you're like, oh, wait, I wanted to start my business to be like a photographer. And now I have to do all these different things. And I actually have to define what it means for me to have a photographer business.
Yes.
That's like, so this resonates so strongly with me. And also like what you said, and that's also like disclaimer, I worked with Nadia before.
Yes.
And I picked her because she was the perfect blend of like the traditional education side and the woo-woo. Let's call it. And non-judgmentally, we call it woo-woo.
Yes.
And like, because I have an academic background too. And for years it was like Google data. And I love me some Google data. But it was always kind of like, there's just something missing.
Let me also pull a tarot card. Let me just also see what the cards have to say. Yes. That was like my house growing up. Yes, totally.
Yeah. Like, I mean, my mom, she was also a bit into that. I mean, back then she was mostly like, oh, let me pick Bachblüten, like flower remedies.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay. Which now in hindsight, I think, well, of course we liked them as a kid because they were pure alcohol.
Exactly.
But hey, those were the 80s. But yeah, now like I mean, sometimes, yeah, I end up working with clients. I'm like, oh, let me pick like an oracle card or a tarot card or a color, which also, this is now very weird. Like, I see colors around people. Yeah.
Do you?
When I see them in
I
my
didn't know
mind.
that. Oh, is
Yeah.
it like an aura thing or is it like a synesthesia thing? Or is it both?
I think it's more of a synesthesia thing, though.
Okay.
I'm not, but or an aura thing. I don't know. It's really weird.
Jen,
I don't know.
tell me my color.
Ah, no, I can happily do.
I
You see,
demand it.
do you want to do you want to do that? Do you want to do that?
100%. I must know.
Gold and dark forest green.
Oh my God, I love it. Really into it.
Okay, but well, we should also kind of like look at the meaning of that.
Yeah. What do you think the meaning is?
Yeah. So I'd say it's a sense of space and connects you to the truth of your heart.
Love
It's
it.
very balancing and harmonizing. It helps you expanding towards awareness and the greater picture in favor of for promoting a greater sense of fulfillment.
I mean, Jen, you do realize everyone who listens to this is going to hit you up immediately and be like, what do you see when you think of me? It's just one of those things. I'm sorry. The cat is out of the bag. We know you have this ability now. Listen.
That's fine. But if I leave it with that, if with one thing, it's kind of like, you know, that your wisdom comes from the heart. And that you should always aim for making space for like the deepest joy to spring from within the depths of yourself.
Oh, I love that. I'm really glad that we're recording this because I'm going to have to re-listen and let that really sink in. Thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. This was not scripted. Like, we do not script anything on this podcast. So I'm curious though. Let's go kind of like back to business.
Yes.
When you say the thing you work most with your clients is service-based, like service design and product design, like what's the number one thing you see people doing wrong when they come to you?
I love talking about this.
Where do they fuck up?
Yes. Well, the number one thing I see, it differs a little bit from person to person, but if I were to generalize it, I would say when it comes to services, let's stick with services for now, is to just focus on the service itself, which in my paradigm of looking at it is just 1/4 of the whole picture. So as you know, and as some of you who listen will know, when I think of a service, I think of a relationship. I think of a round holistic experience. I don't think of a foot rub and then it's like, bye, see ya. Actually, never see.
Yeah, I mean, it's called service provider, so you need someone to provide the service too, right? Like,
and then also, ideally, that would be a relationship that is lasting and that you know, that develops depth over time and that develops trust over time. So, what I see in terms of mistakes, you know, people do what they're going to do, and that's totally fine. If I were to give my 2 cents, I would say
we're here to listen to you.
Which is exactly what I'm here to do, to disregard the other pieces. So for me, it's always the who, the whom, the what, and the how. So who are you as a service provider? First of all, why did you get into this? What is filling you up? What is your vision for your business? What is your vision for your work? Then also getting to know yourself as a person and as a service provider and as a business owner. How do you work? What is your energetic ebb and flow? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are things that you are going to have to be mindful of probably all your life, but that we can sort of design for? If we know about them, we can design for them. So you don't have to make really hard decisions every day. You can make a couple of hard decisions once, and then you set up the structures.
Be done with it. That sounds promising.
For a while, right? Until you reach your next level. But then you set up the structures to either you need support with that, or you set up the sequence accordingly so that you can be supported with something that you maybe perceive as more of, you know, something that's more challenging to you. Then what are your strengths? Where can you really dazzle? What are the things that you're like, this needs to be done by me? Like, this is not going to be outsourced. This is not going to be something that's like at the end of the to-do list.
What comes now? What just flows to you, and you know that's where you shine, and like,
yes. And how can I really tap into that? what are your capacity ceilings, I call them? Where are the things that you're like, oh man, I'd really love to go there, but as soon as I reach this level, I'm like, well, like it's just not happening.
Yeah.
Or like I can hold myself there for a little bit, but I cannot sustain it. And then before I know it, I'm back where I started. We need to know these things in order to set up a really good sequence for you that works for you and that also works for your clients. So next pillar out of the 4 is the whom, which is the people you work with, which again, you said, right? So you have the service provider, you have the service recipient, so to speak. And who are these people? Who are the people you're excited to work with? Because if you're bitching about your clients all day long, then maybe it's not that they're all exceptionally awful people. Maybe it's that you didn't do the work that is yours to do in the back end of figuring out, who am I excited to work with? What is the common denominator there? How can I meet them where they're at? How can I provide the service in a way that provides a gain for them?
Yeah.
And how can I find these or let these people find me, if that's kind of how you want to go about it? Either is fine. And then that is all your work. That is not
and
that's that is not God. That is not like something that just happened naturally, organically. Like that is your work to do.
Yeah, and that's a hard pill to swallow though, right? Because
for some people it sure is, yes. I knew this was going to be a spicy episode. I think out of all of our the ones I've done, I knew the one with you was going to be like,
I bring the spice. But right, like when you're attracting, I mean, I see this too, right? And like, and this is so interesting because you come from a service provider domain and I come from branding, and it has a lot of intersections, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And it's kind of like, well, I had a client who was like, oh, I don't know, those clients, I had a client and she was like, well, I currently have 2 clients. They're like, I don't know, not so great fits. And like, then she was bitching about them. Like, look, this is fine. You can vent here. That's okay. But like, this is, you kind of brought this on yourself.
Yeah. Well, it can be a hard pill to swallow, sure, but it's also liberating, right? Because it's like, no, you choose. This is not something that just happens to you. Because I hear this a lot with clients where it's like, oh, well, when I say, because, it's like, I'm sure you have this with your clients as well in the beginning, especially when I do a strategy audit, which is like 60 minutes. I'm always like, is it really 60 minutes? Because we get so much done in like the 1 hour.
Yeah.
People are always like, what just happened? Like,
they're
what
floored.
weird window of time and space just worked? But right, I'd be like, okay, I'll send out a super in-depth form. And I'm like, okay, who's your target segment? Da, 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 da. And then I have a lot of people who also have a business background who come to work with me. So they're like, oh, Nadia, I don't need this. Like, I'm fine. I already know all these things. And I'm like, just humor me. Just fill it in. It's fine.
Just for fun, so we can laugh about it.
So it's totally fine. And then, what comes up often is like, well, the people who find me or the people who gravitate towards me, or I guess the clients I have. And that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We can work with that as a starting point. But isn't it wonderful to think, oh, it's actually on me to choose, and I can design the pathways for these people to come to me. So I'm not just stuck with like, oh, but everyone I want to work with is like, or, everyone who wants to work with me, da, 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 da. Okay, that's great information to have. Now we know what you might not want or what's not super
that just
fun
reminds me of something. When we bring the spice, serve, like, okay, I bring the spice, you serve the tea. What, I'm sure you're gonna love this. What are you telling the people who are like, oh, I don't need to do this, I help everyone, I serve everyone?
I don't know if I still have clients like that, because I think they
oh no, I surely don't, because like they were like, nah, okay,
no, I mean, here's the thing, right? You can't do that. And that's not just, that's from every perspective we just sort of covered. That's from a purely business marketing strategic perspective. It's impossible, first of all. As my teacher always said, and actually all of my teachers and professors have all said, if you're going to try to serve everyone, you're going to end up serving no one. And that is the truth, because you're going to be watering everything down. You're going to be like, oh, but if I do it for this person, well, but then these people who are, let's say, okay, I'm going to work with this segment who's like this, but then someone who's on the completely different end of that spectrum, if I want to also appeal to them, how many websites would you need to appeal to everyone? Like, I have a couple clients who have 2 different sorts of audiences. And even with that, and they're very like well-chosen, intelligently, segmented audiences that make sense. But even with them, we'll do case-to-case basis of like, do you need two websites? How are we going to set up this website to make sense and to not alienate one of those two audiences? And now remember someone coming in being like, yeah, but what I do is really good for everyone. I'm like, listen, I believe you. Probably everyone could benefit from this. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to segment this down. And the thing is that you will not only have people who are in your very, very specific segment, you will also get to work with other people. Like I have a couple clients that really I'm not specifically designing for, and they usually come through other channels like word of mouth, or, they have a friend. It's like, oh my God, you helped her. Can you help me do this?
Yeah.
And it's super fun. And I would not want to like have missed out on them because I adore them. I generally tend to adore my clients because I design for amazing people.
Yeah, right. That's I think the worst business advice I heard at the beginning was like, oh, like don't be friends with your clients. Like kind of like friendship and business don't mix. And I'm like, but I don't know. I love all my clients, like the ones who live more or less like in Switzerland. I actually hang out with them. I see them. Like, I don't know. It doesn't feel wrong. Is it wrong? It depends on your boundaries. Like, I'm not saying you have to, but generally, I don't know.
And you're a Gemini, no?
No, I'm not. No, of course I am.
Yeah, you're air. Like you're super.
I'm a Gemini.
Oh my gosh, you're a double as well.
Yes, I'm a double Gemini with sun in first house.
Ooh, so I'm a double Scorpio with sun in 12th house. So clearly I'm not hanging out with my clients or with anyone, really. I'm just in my dungeon by myself.
That's fine.
But that's me.
As long as you got lovely curtains in your dungeon, you're good.
At some point, I will have them. What I want to say last thing on segmentation to kind of soften the blow a little bit, little bit of sugar with that spice. It's also, I mean, you want to learn in Service Design School, which is a program I set up to literally take someone by the hand through everything we're talking about right now, through all these 4 pillars. We have a whole class on segmentation because you need to, with time, this will become second nature, and you'll know sort of what a good segment is, what a good chunk and size of segment is. The thing is that you don't want to segment too narrowly so that you only have like 3 people on the planet who are going to be part of that segment. But you also don't want to segment too wide where you're like, yes, everyone.
Depends. I mean, if you can charge really high ticket to those
then
3.
But then these 3 people need to understand that they're part of your segment, need to understand that they have the problem that you're solving, need to also be on the lookout for that. Let's say it's a risky model. It can be done. It's risky.
It's risky. But at the same time, right? Like, that's the thing, right? If you want to, as you've said at the beginning, to build this relationship, you have to know who these people are, and you need to know more than like the socio-demographics, because fuck that, you only need that for advertising targeting. It's
absolutely no, and there's so many more aspects. But I think that's fun because what we shouldn't forget, and that's why I bring in human-centered design in Service Design School and in everything I do. We're talking about humans, right? We have in human-centered design, service design thinking, we always have the human at the center of the galaxy of everything.
Yeah.
So it's less about, ooh, what would be cool to do? Or like, ooh, I just saw this cool template, or I was sold this cool step-by-step process, or this person is doing it this way, let's do it this way. And then at the very end, I'm going to slap on some cool graphics and some cool branding. And then I'm going to make it sort of fit what this person might need. It's like, no. We start with the person. Yeah. What do they? And I mean, I can tell you, like the best services, even the best products, this is the same. This goes for both categories.
User-centered.
Yeah, you can't deny it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then, I mean, again, if you have to work so in depth with the people you're serving,
they better be some great people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But I mean, I know all of us, I'm sure everyone who's listening has a lot of really great people they work with. And I don't know, if we're really truly honest, maybe 1 or 2 we're like, they might not be the wrong kind of people, but well, they are.
It's just not gelling with you.
Yes, they're not like Devil Wears Prada type of clients, but like they're just we're not really vibing. Let's put it like that. How do we go about that? Like, why? So we're attracting those people. How can we get rid of them in a gentle way?
Yeah. I think before getting rid of them, I would take a moment to just take a beat and look at, what am I not liking about this? What am I not enjoying about this? Is this something where I'm being triggered, where I do not yet have the capacity to show up in this moment? If this person is walking all over my boundaries, bulldozing all over the boundaries I have, and I don't have this with any other client or with any other, fascinating. Why is that?
Yeah, why is this person triggering me in a way that other clients don't?
Yes.
That's
and what can I take away from this? I mean, I have certainly had clients who are, first of all, operate very, very differently from how I operate. There's we're not going super specifically into human design today, but there's the big gap between, not a gap, but like a big difference between a sacral and a non-sacral. So I want to say it's a good mix, because I do love working with sacral defined clients, MGs and generators. But, sometimes I have to check myself when I'm working with an MG who's like, let's do this and this and this and this. And immediately with my undefined heart, my undefined sacral, I'm going to go into, okay, I'm going to have to keep up with her. But if I can take a beat and go, no, actually, this is why she's seeking me out, because I'm
slow down
the other pole to that, and I can bring something that she doesn't have, and she's bringing a lot that I don't have. And there's one particular client I'm thinking of who is like a force and manifesting generator who is a force of nature, and I adore her. We're so different, the way we approach things, the way we go about things. I'm so methodical. I'm like, let's like really
break it down
get
step by step,
and like let's really take the time, like it's worth it. And she's like, oh my God, I'm already bored, and it's like, oh God, this is like taking really long. And
can I hurry up the process, please?
Exactly. She's like, let me write some emails in the meantime while you're figuring it out. But it's wonderful because I'm just fascinated and delighted by seeing her process and by watching her do the things that she does so well. And I can appreciate that. And I can also see, okay, in the example we had with the boundaries, like that's going to be something you need to work on either way. If you want to work on, it's like with relationships, right? Do you want to work on it with this boyfriend or this partner? You can leave this person, you can start a dating process fresh, and you're going to meet someone else. And at some point you're going to get to this point again where the boundaries topic will come up. This is not a person specific thing. This is the topic that's going to be coming up for you either way. So I think that would be the first thing that I would look at is,
what is the lesson that's kind of bringing that's been brought to me, and what can I learn from this?
Yes. Because you're going to have to address that either way. And I mean, in terms of boundaries, like I certainly didn't grow up or wasn't really taught boundaries so much. I had to learn all of that in my 20s, painfully. And that was a really difficult process for me, to the degree where it started with, oh, you mean I get to have those? And then, I mean, right?
No, I get it. And I don't know. I feel this is a challenge for anyone who's been like socialized as a woman anyway. Like, well, what, we can have needs? No, wait, what?
And I can say these things out loud. You're saying I can say them and not be ridiculous. Okay. I'm gonna need to sleep on this.
Yeah, and it's even getting more fun when you have a kid. Then it gets real fun.
It gets real fun
because I mean, mothers have needs. No.
And then you have the whole second layer of, what am I modeling for this child that I am in charge of?
Yes.
Because right now it's only me having to figure out my stuff and
what I'm modeling for myself.
Exactly. Mine and all of my ancestors' stuff.
Yes.
No big deal.
Yeah. And it's it's actually the thing of like, that's the point where I'm at. I'm like, I want to break some of this intergenerational bullshit.
Of course.
And I'd rather have my kid see me lounging on the couch than like, I don't know, having the house super tidy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a shit about it. So I don't know. It's
a big topic. But the thing is, what's really nice, I think, like for me, that's been such a beautiful moment to have, is that even with this background of, okay, like really painfully brick by brick learning what boundaries are and how to set them. Now having clients who very casually just kind of, just a napabemerking, like just the side remark. I had a client the other day who was like, da 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 da, talking about something else, and then she's like, yeah, but I mean, you're the queen of boundaries anyway. And I'm like, me?
Yes, of course.
Me?
I put that on my email and my email binder, like
like your little, yes. And it's so funny. And it's something I hear very often. And it's also something that from clients, funnily enough. And it's also something that I find makes you more trustworthy as a service provider and as a coach, as a guide. Yes. And something that my clients tell me where they're like, you know what? It reduces the anxiety on the client side so much when they know that you've got yourself, like you're solid, you've got your spine.
It's expectation management. That's what it is.
Absolutely. And they know that they can't rattle you. So that if they have a request, they can make it. And they know if Nadia doesn't want to do it, she's just going to say no.
Yeah.
Like she's not going to have a little existential crisis and like I used to do, like in my 20s when I was, employed, and God, I would have to like talk to my mom for like 2 hours, and I'd have to write down a script of how that conversation was going to go with my superior. Then I'd have to rehearse it. Then I'd have to like go to the store to get a crystal to support me in the conversation. Then it was a whole thing. And now it's like, someone has something and they're like, can we do it this way? And it'll be either yes or no, or it'll be yes, but, or it'll be no, but. Like there might be a condition, but I'm very clear. Yeah. And people know, so they can ask me and they know if she doesn't, because that fuzzy sort of, it's like that icky, murky thing where you have to almost take on both sides of responsibility if you have a request and the other person is not stable in their own self, and you're like, well, if I ask her then she's going to say yes, but she probably only says yes because she wants to be nice and she doesn't know how to say no. Like that's where it gets to be a lot of emotional labor for me on the other side. But if someone has solid boundaries and they're like, oh, I mean, I get like random requests sometimes on Instagram as well. The other day, I mean, I don't want to call this person out. It was super random. And I was just like, haha, no, no, I don't do that.
I remember when I asked you about if you want to join me on the Scenic Route podcast, you were like, yes, it's a big sacral yes. And I'm like, okay, whatever, take it.
Yes, but it's right. We're all clear. We're all on the same page here. Like this was a yes, this was a no. And then people can know. And sometimes I think, for me, I like to deliver it with a sense of humor, even if it's a no. So with this person, it was like, haha, no, I don't do that. Like, no.
Yeah. Okay. So if we're attracting the wrong kind of clients, we go back to kind of like what you've said, like really looking at, okay, how do I position myself? Like who am I? Who do I want to work with? Who do I attract?
I think there's a difference between, am I struggling with a client who's maybe not the wrong type of client for me segment wise? And then I'm looking at, okay, is this a person specific thing, or is this a thing that's me specific? Am I the common denominator? Am I going to come up against the feeling again and again and again? But if it's like, if you're attracting the wrong people in general, and it's always, people who are not really the people you want to work with, then I would look at it more from a strategic point of view. And go, okay, what are the pathways I have set up? And sometimes I pose this question to my clients and they're like, what do you mean by pathways? And I'm like, okay, you settle in because we're going to have some work to do.
Okay, next episode is on pathways.
Yes, because these are things you can and should design for. Again, this doesn't just happen organically, or I mean, it happens either way, but it's better if you design for it. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what I tell my branding clients, right? Like people have like an idea of you in their head anyway.
Either way, yeah.
So why not try to architect actually what they think of you
and what would make sense and what would be beneficial,
and how you want to be seen, how you ideally want to be perceived. Of course, you cannot ever control this.
No,
but you can do your part. Right? Yeah. You can be the architect of how you want other people to see you.
Present yourself. Yes, of course. Yeah. And what makes sense? Like what makes sense in the bigger galaxy of the business with your offers and everything. And then you have the branding that has to tie in to all of these pieces.
Yeah.
So you better
Otherwise,
not leave that up to chance.
no. So you first work with Nadia and then come work with me.
Probably do both at the same time, actually, because it's going
That's
to inform,
true.
right?
That's very true.
It's a
Very true, though. It's very true, though. Like, so now I feel we talked a lot of like really more strategic pieces. And and before we said kind of like you're the queen of both. Where does like kind of like the energetics, the capacity come in with attracting the wrong clients?
So for me, right, the strategy, which we touched on just now, is what we consciously choose. This is like us being our adult selves, like sitting down to do some business. It's the formula, it's the blueprint. And then the capacity, which is going to be a topic for everyone. The size and the impact of that topic is going to differ from person to person. But to me, one way to visualize it is the capacity is your vessel. So say you have a glass of water, it's your container, right? And the strategy is what you pour in, what you consciously choose. And you're like, oh, I'm going to do this. Well, how much capacity do you have? If, I always think of this visual, and I'm sure I have it on my Instagram and, some other places as kind of a meme, where there's going to be a point where you either stop pouring or you can keep pouring, but it's going to just flood the vessel.
Yeah.
Because your vessel hasn't adjusted to the strategy yet. So it's again, a Wechselwirkung. Maybe at some point I should learn this in English because I say it a lot. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, you obviously know, but do you know this in English? People can look it up.
We do. Isn't it just kind of like an interdependency?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or like or do you want to go into more of like reciprocal effect or?
Love it. Love all of these. I'm not that smart. I wouldn't have said it that way. Yes, it's right. It's kind of like a video game a little bit where it's like levels. So you advance one level here, but you also have to advance one level here. You can't just go into the new world if you've not advanced on both.
Oh, if you haven't upgraded your armor, you cannot go into the next world.
Yes, you can't.
I love this World of Warcraft theme here.
Well, I did just finish reading a wonderful book that's just going to be a little... If anyone listening is looking for a wonderful book to get lost in, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow is just delightful. Okay. I've had the best time reading it. And I'm not even like a video game person, but here we are. So, okay, so your vessel's going to flood, right? If your capacity is not up to par with what you strategically want to do. So let's say, okay, we're end of year, right? I don't know when this comes out, but like Q4, then it's like, okay, what are my objectives for next year? Revenue wise, growth wise, visibility wise, what am I looking to do here? You can come up with all the strategic plans and all the things, but if your capacity is not on that level to hold that and to sustain that, that's going to be exactly what happens, where you flood the vessel. And then you're like, oh my God, guess there's just like something I cannot do. People are going to go different ways with this depending on their own sort of tendency of maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe I can only do this much, or maybe whatever it is. So in my paradigm of business, we really need both, which is why I always say I merge these two areas, because we can't do one without the other. And this is also why people seek me out specifically, because I'm not saying it can't be done, but this is a tricky one to kind of outsource or to work with two people at the same time. Because if you as a client work with one person for strategy and then with another for capacity, it's going to be a lot of your work as the client is going to be to get these two people on the same page, even though they don't know each other, but to kind of, which is why sometimes I think for these intersection type, very specific needs, it's really nice to have someone who can meet you at that level with both. Yeah. So it can be like, okay, I have 100%. Your chart here. I've got your strategy. Like I'm looking at your copy. I'm looking at your website. I understand that. I've got my cards here. I understand all of these things, but I also understand that there's such a thing as capacity.
Yeah. And like something that comes up with a lot of my clients, that your capacity is seasonal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, maybe if you're super stretched now, and that not even business wise, maybe your kid is sick, you have troubles in your relationship, a parent needs taking care of, like whatever it is, right? Your capacity is ever changing. And
interesting. I've never thought of it this way.
no,
I think to me,
okay.
maybe we have different understandings of capacity. I think to me, capacity is really like the internal, I call it the spine, right? And I remember when you and I had this conversation, you were like, what are you trying to say?
Oh, yeah. She was like, oh, we were talking about capacity. And then she out of random, she was like, out of the blue, she was like, oh,
it's like the spine.
She was mumbling spine. I'm like, sure. Whatever. I go with whatever Nadia is mumbling.
In your rendition of me, I'm like an old grumpy, like, I mean,
no, you're not. And everyone can see that.
You're not wrong. No, I am like, I'm an old Italian man. It's true. Like my taste of music and all this.
Oh, you're always go for the Adriana Celentano.
I have like my nonno's playlist going.
That's
pretty
fine.
Much every day.
That's fine. That's good.
But yes, to me, it's capacity is internal. It's really a spine. I think of it as a spine. Some people resonate with that. Others are like, well, what is that woman talking about? Again, it's like the container or the vessel. Can I hold that? And I think the things that you touched on for me are more like circumstantial. How am I feeling today? Is my kid sick today? Is more seasonal. But to me, those are a little bit different. One is external, one is internal. And I think of capacity as more internal. So I would make that distinction.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I agree, but I don't know. I feel so. Would you say external factors cannot like kind of like diminish or reduce your inner capacity? Is it not penetratable?
There's probably some interrelation, but to me, in my paradigm, capacity is subconscious. Strategy is conscious. Capacity is subconscious.
Oh,
and so. Just knowing what I know, it's very rare that something will touch on the subconscious level and will actually shift it without us really making an effort. I mean, it's got to be like a super traumatic experience would do it. Sometimes people do have sort of like spontaneous moments of a subconscious shift, but it's very, very rare in adult life. So I would think that they're just circumstantial like situations we find ourselves in that I think would impact what you can handle or what you can say yes to or how far you can stretch yourself or not. But to me, that's different from capacity. I think capacity is internal, the way that I think of it.
Yeah.
Like, what can I hold? What am I available for? Where do I feel safe? How far can I go until I don't feel safe anymore? And then my entire system is like, no, this is where we need to pull back. Like, no. This to me is an internal process.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it's very interesting though, this conversation. Like, I mean, I see there's a lot of beauty in that, right? As in like, you kind of like are harboring your own, like your capacity, and it's just really, and you have the whole, like the serenity over it.
Well, it doesn't always feel like that to people because maybe, you obviously have done a lot of work on yourself. And I think to you, you're not the kind of person who's overwhelmed by that notion. But there are people who are overwhelmed by that because they cannot quite see like, well, then what do I do with this? If I always get to this revenue level, and as soon as I go, I had one client who came to me specifically because she just couldn't hack that next revenue level. And she had her own, and again, that's why I'm saying it's internal, because it wasn't the things that were going on around her. It's actually a really good example for this. She had a big launch, and she kind of comes from a more, I'm not going to say her industry, but there's a lot of sort of a patterning in her industry of like, oh, we're going to be breadless. Like we're not going to ever amount to anything, but at least we're creative, or at least we're.
So kind of like a starving
kind of
mentality going on as
yes, but like at least we can, we can fulfill our heart's desires, and at least we can do this.
We're all matchers in business. This is good for us.
But then but I'm always going to be struggling. I'm always going to have to be supported by my parents. I'm always going to have there she had that, but then she ventured into it was kind of adjacent but slightly different industry, but still of course is carrying all of her stories that she has carried since she was a child. Like we really went there, like, when did you first hear this? And she had this wonderful launch that was super successful. incredibly successful. And then a little while later, she's like, I don't even know what happened. Literally, I mean, in German, we have the thing, right? The money flows through your hands, flows through your fingers. Like she had this amount in her bank account. And a few weeks later, her system could not handle that. She did not have the capacity to handle that. And so it just, she's like, Nadia, I don't even know where it went.
Yeah.
I don't even know what happened. I know I had like a random payment to make for like this thing and this thing. And so these to me would be
and
the
that
circumstantial
popped up or something,
right? I have to make like a car payment or I have to make this. Those are like outside circumstances. But for this to happen, this is to me something we need to look at internally, where it's like there's a part of her system that had to hold you back. That's like, we went somewhere we have never been. This does not feel safe. This does not feel like somewhere we can like reasonably be and exist and survive because, and then we had to look at what are those because.
So not only like we fear in that case, we fear our launch failing, but actually like
we
now
fear the launch succeeding.
Yeah, but now with that experience, she's like, okay, now thank you, Nadia. Now I fear my launch failing and I fear my launch succeeding.
Wonderful. And I'm like, my work here is done. No, I'm just kidding.
Kidding. I mean, I know there's the big leap. Yeah. So we're going to link it in show notes if you want to read it. I mean, this touches on that issue a bit, right? Like you achieve something.
Yeah. You have your limit and you get to that limit. You can see, here's the thing. Sometimes it's not as black and white as like, you will never get over this. Like you will never go beyond this limit. You can, especially when you're like very strategically, getting yourself there, doing all the things. But at some point, your system is going to be so freaked out if you haven't yet built the capacity to be with that it's just going to like bring something about that gets you right back to the confines of, oh yeah, this feels much better. And the thing about this like sigh of relief is that you're objectively probably in like 99% of cases in a really shitty spot now where you're like, oh, this is much better. But like objectively looking at it from the outside, it's like, no, this is not great. This is not good. But your system is like, no, we know this.
But you're used to it. It feels safe.
Familiarity is a huge driver.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people also kind of mistake for self-sabotage.
Exactly. Oh my God. Thank you for saying that. Yes. This is like,
preach, right? Like there's no such thing as self-sabotage.
Yes.
People hear me.
No such thing. No.
Right? It's kind of like your system helping you to get back to something that the system feels comfortable to, feels like, now I can relax, because new, not relaxed.
Not good. What might happen here? What might happen beyond? It's like, Game of Thrones, like beyond the wall. What's north of the wall? Okay, that was a terrible Westeros accent.
It was really bad. It was really bad. It's fine. It's fine. I love how we're just throwing out pop culture references though.
The few, like the 5 people who can keep up with us on this are like our new BFFs, because
true. This is true.
If you're still with us at this point,
yes.
Like, who are you?
Please DM us. Like we're gonna make a special club. I'm gonna design merch. Like we're awesome. Like. Yeah, I know. I just really want to say like now every Sunday I say, where are my dragons? Because I'm really waiting on the next season 2.
I haven't started.
Oh, like I was the same. I was like, no, not gonna watch it. They fucked up. Oh no,
that wasn't
season.
me. I'm not like this at all. I'm like, I want to watch it. I just don't have time. Or like, I'm watching some other trash or something.
No, it's good though.
I'm sure it is. I have such a long list.
Yeah, and especially because that Doctor Who guy. I mean,
is that Prince Philip and?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we've lost like another 2 people out of the 5 that we're still with. Like Doctor Who.
Like I'll gift the last 3 people remaining. I'll gift them a sweater, like some kind of awesome sweater.
If you're still with us. I mean, I also think I would have. I think I fantasized about this at one point where I really wanted like a pop culture podcast. This is the kind of shit I fantasize about when I can't sleep. I'm like, should I do it? You know what I wanted to do? I'll throw this idea out there. I also think I'm like a person who has great ideas. So, but I don't have the time and energy to fulfill them.
Okay, so
like,
if you're Money Gen, if you're generator or
this.
Money Gen and you hear this, go run with it.
I wanted to do, I mean, this was like in the heyday of when The Handmaid's Tale came out. Are you watching? Did you watch that?
I had to stop because
we all had to stop.
Shit got too real.
We all
and especially during I think during season 2, I was actually pregnant myself. So I was like, Lord. No. I got it. No.
Hell no. I mean, no. I think I made it to maybe season 4 or something, but then even I had to be like, okay, what am I doing to myself? But I mean, the first few seasons, right? And I thought it would be, I mean, I don't know if it would be hilarious, but I thought it would have been cool to start a podcast with a friend or like with a co-host called Gilead Girls as a play on Gilmore Girls.
Oh,
but then it would be like, every episode we'd do a recap. Yeah. So if anyone wants to run with this, you have my permission. Gilead Girls, go for it. You have like 100 episodes now to catch up.
Yeah. You're a bit late, but you can still
you can still do it.
Yeah, like the same with like Jonathan Van Ness did for Game of Thrones. Remember that?
Love that.
Yeah, it was so amazing.
Yes.
But let's go back to capacity here.
All right.
Right. Let's go back. So let's circle back the big Scenic Route circle back.
Yes.
See what I did there.
Yes.
So we're kind of like coming to an end, and I know I'm gonna ask you for another episode because this will
It's already a yes, Jen. It's already
okay.
A yes.
Is it a sacral yes, my dear Nadia?
Center, yes. It's just
a G center. Yes. Oh my goodness, even better.
That's my real.
That's your defined center. Very good. No, but I'm going to ask you the $1 million question that everyone wants to know when we talk about like capacities. So you're like, oh, okay, cool. I got it. So I cannot only have fear of failure, but also fear of success. So
depending on where you stand, right?
Yes,
other people are like, no. Revenue is not my problem at all. My problem is visibility, or that is not my problem at all. It's different for everyone. So I don't want to condition anyone here to think like they have to go through that whole thing. It's different.
That is so true. That is so true. But I'm going to go with the revenue because I had a similar episode once where I was like, where did that money go? And I feel it resonates with a lot of us. Not maybe the big launch, but I don't know. Every now and then you're like, I didn't buy. What happened?
I think what was so interesting with this client specifically that it took so little time and her bank account was right at, the number
where it was
she
before.
Was at before, because that was her comfortable number.
Yeah.
Right. But then other people have other capacity stuff where they will not launch.
And the $1 million question, quite literally, is like,
asking,
okay, how can I make my new comfortable number like 1 million?
Okay. Love that. It's very on the nose.
Give me like the quick 5 steps, please. I don't have time.
Okay, you guys, I'm going to deliver. I'm going to deliver on this. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but if we want to increase our capacities for whatever we feel like, I don't know. I mean, it can be visibility. Like you have this big visibility thing and then suddenly it's poof, whatever, right? You're at some point where you realize shit's going to happen. Shit is happening all over again. Mm-hmm. I'm sick of this.
I'm back where I started.
Done. Yeah, like the Leiterli Spiel, where you short before you cross the finish line, it's like back to start.
What's it called in English?
I have no idea.
Ladders,
ladders game, snakes and ladders, or
snakes and ladders. I think yes. Someone let us know.
Right, go back to field number 1.
Yes.
And you're like,
well, great. Now I'm exhausted and I'm back up.
Yeah.
Well,
they don't even get a shitty T-shirt.
Exactly. Well, the thing is, that's why you work on capacity as you're working on your strategy. That's why I'm saying you want to do both at the same time.
Yeah.
Because otherwise that's
but we know now how we work on our strategy, like the who, who, but
say no more, fam. Say no more. No. So the capacity thing is, remember how we said capacity is subconscious, strategy is conscious. That's why strategy is easier, although you still need a little bit of know-how there, and you need both.
Mm-hmm. It surely feels more tangible.
Absolutely. But again, you want to be able to work on those two things. You want to be able to ideally find someone who can work on that with you, who understands those two things, because it's a push and pull, right? I call it the outside in approach or the inside out. Some people work better when they do the strategic sort of push forward first, and then they come up against their capacity ceiling. They're like, oh shit, now, I realize something's not working. So then we have to work on it. I personally am more of the other way around, where I will work on my capacity either way. And then all of a sudden it opens up.
Yeah. Big chance if you're listening to this podcast, you're the later type. What I sometimes refer to as beers from my coach, we have to be first before we do.
Yeah.
And
Same.
not do and then be something. But
that's just what comes naturally to me. There's no right or wrong, but I can see it sometimes with my clients. I'm like, oh, I'm the same as you. And that works for me, because then it opens up. I'm like, oh, why would I even ever do it this other way? Like, I can do it this way. This is much better. Yeah. And like, I have to work much less for this. It's much easier. But basically what I'm saying is conscious versus subconscious. First thing you need to understand is that being disciplined, being like depending on will, muscling through, staying positive, all of these things. I mean, great if that's what you want to do. Anyone can do whatever they want, but
this is called the Scenic Route, not the hustle highway. So
yes,
we're with you.
And the thing is, you can only do that so much of the time.
Your willpower will come to an end. It's not an infinite resource.
Because it's a conscious thing. It's a conscious effort, and you're not always in conscious mind territory. In fact, you're quite rarely on the whole picture, bigger picture, in conscious mind territory. So can we do something where we recalibrate, right? If 95% of your baseline still thinks it's unsafe, or there's something too threatening going on beyond that goal that you have set for yourself consciously, it's more a matter of slowly and gradually and safely and respectfully to your own system, upward adjusting that baseline of what registers as safe. And how do we do that? It's going to be super, super dependent on the person.
But I'd say the common denominator is like actually really going slow, probably even slower than you think.
Some people work really fast, I will say. Like some people are like, I have clients like that are like,
yes, I also believe in like quantum leaps, but they're usually a compound effect of like really doing
work that
small,
already has also happened before. Absolutely. I mean, people find me at different stages. And I just always think like, you want to do this once and thoroughly. That's what I always say. Because you don't
why do the nasty parts
here,
twice?
Or like 10 times, 20 times. Yeah. Like, because you don't want to be back here in 3 months because you did kind of like the what
you
are they called? Like crash diet, like the crash diet type version of your business strategy, right? You're like, oh, I'm just going to do this and this and this. And you're going to do it for 3 weeks. And then you're like, well, shit, now I need to eat a Ben and Jerry's, right? So this is not going to happen. So let's do it consciously and slowly. I mean, I've been working with I have different people I work with, but there's, stuff I've been working on for a year, and like I do the work every day. I'm not just like I do the actual work that I give my clients to do every single day, and I do my sessions at the moment weekly, and we're still here. But I'm like light years away from where I was when we first started. But this is
in like practical terms, can you give us some of the actionable things you're doing? What do you feel comfortable sharing when it comes to your capacity practice?
Well, it's going to be different from person to person, but I'm trying to think of like something that's going to be applicable to most people, and that's easy to do, and that doesn't go outside the scope of this episode, which is hard to do.
I'm bringing the hard questions.
Well, that's why we love you. Yeah. So keep in mind that we always want to go towards the subconscious level when it comes to capacity, not the conscious. So you can already scrap reading a book. You can already scrap watching a documentary. All of those things are conscious mind. So anything that will influence your subconscious, it's going to either be, things like deep meditation, hypnosis, anything that happens at theta level. Obviously, again, if it's a big thing or something you've tried on your own a couple of times and you're still not getting there, I always recommend working with someone, because again, I also work with someone, even though
we all work,
because there's going to be blind spots in your own understanding as well. Yes. But anything that goes beyond that, because as long as we're working with the conscious mind, it's not gonna land.
And probably you have to really discover what works for you, right? I mean, I have clients who, I personally love tapping.
Yeah. If that works for you, that's amazing.
I know clients who really resonate well with sound healing and to kind of like broaden the mind with sound.
Things. Yes.
And I'm like, that doesn't do. Like, it's relaxing, but it's not like,
Whatever thing you're going to do that you're actually going to do. So for me, the daily practice to me is more the reinforcement of what I do in the sessions with my mentor, with my guide. So the practice is just to sort of, I always think of like feeding a baby, like just feed myself a little bit of that every day, just give myself a little spoonful so that my system can calibrate towards that and can get a little bit, not too much, but like just a little bit of an understanding of, oh yes, okay. And over time, right, that becomes normal. And I have a little bite of it every day.
Yeah. I mean, most of my clients are creatives in maybe the literal sense or broader sense, and they're good with visualizing exercises and stuff. So I imagine you could also see yourself how you're getting better, like how you're feeling better, just trying to hold that for as long as you can every day. Start small or something. I don't know.
I'm sure it's not a bad idea. Look at me being like super. Well, for me, it goes a little, you probably know I have a kind of a love-hate with like affirmations and things like that. Cause I know it's like the thing that people will gravitate towards the first thing, right? Like, oh, but I write down my sentences and all of that. And you can do all of that, but I would
as long as you have zero bullshit around it.
And also I would do that in connection or as an add-on to the actual capacity work that you're doing. So if you're just adding on the affirmation or the visualization or the vision board, and there's no capacity work that has taken place before that, it's like throwing something at like a Teflon surface. It's like, it doesn't stick, right? Because your subconscious is like, what does that have to do with me? Like, that's a nice sentence.
This doesn't concern me.
Exactly. This is like, you're like turning around, like, you mean me? Like,
that meme where it's like the partner with the girlfriend and the other woman, they're all like, you should do a meme with that. Nadia is good with memes, like with memes. You should do one of those, like the capacity is like the.
Actually, let me look at this. Yeah. I mean, it's just not going to stick is what I'm saying. And I have had clients, and it's not just going to not stick, but it's also going to make you, what I've seen in my experience with some clients who've done this extensively before they came to work with me, is that it's going to make you less trustworthy to your own system to be repeating something that your system does not actually believe. So you're like, every day you stand in front of a mirror, you're like, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. And your system's like, yeah, but it's not true. That's a kind of a strong example. Yeah. But because it's not, again, it's Teflon. Like it just kind of,
it doesn't even penetrate the realm of,
it just doesn't go there. So if we can start on the inside and we can start with that recalibration, with that reprogramming, whatever you want to call it, whichever approach you want to take, and then you can add that on, that's amazing. So that's where I will give clients homework like that. Or if they come with a suggestion like, oh, I could do this. I'm like, yes, absolutely do it. Cause I know that we've done the work for that to actually, like that hook or that anchor to be able to sink in somewhere. Otherwise it's just like, again, it's like, cool. Yeah. What does that have to do with me? Like, that's not going anywhere. And then you're going to get fed up because you're going to be doing your affirmations every day. And you're like, this is not working.
Yeah. And then you have like from a business perspective, you have a bad client experience and you're like, fuck this shit. I'm not going to, I'm going to leave Nadia a bad Google review.
And then, well, no, because if it wouldn't happen if you worked with someone, like, it doesn't have to be me, but it wouldn't happen. Yeah. It happens if you kind of go into it blind by yourself, and then you don't even have a bad Google review to leave to anyone because you haven't.
You can leave one to yourself.
New business idea. No, but that's when people are like, oh, maybe I'm not cut out for this business thing. Like, no. I mean, not everyone is also, let's be honest, but if you've made it this far,
and if fat chance you are.
Yes. Right. Yeah. So that's, I love that. Yeah, I think that's important and it needs to be said. So that's like what I came here to say.
Brilliant. Lovely. No, it's so true, right? Like, it's, I don't know. There has been so many truths here.
And so much silliness.
Yes, but it's kind of like both. Like, you come for, I don't know, you come for the silliness, you stay for the truth, or is it the other way around? I'm not sure. But either way, between all like the Game of Thrones and Sex and the City references and pop cultural shenanigans, like
what you have to endure to get to like the good capacity.
There were golden nuggets in there, people.
You can't have one without the other with me.
No,
it's like
no. So, hey, Nadia, like, where do you hang out online? How can people, like, if they're now like, oh, okay, I got to work with Nadia on my capacity, how can people find you?
My personal website is nadiagabrielle.com. And then my Instagram is _Nadia Gabrielle. And then if you're a projector in human design, I also run Projectors Invited. Do come over. It's for projectors and it's also for those who love us, which I think is everyone. Just kidding.
I mean, how can you not?
Should be everyone. And then it's at Projectors Invited on Instagram. And I have newsletters for both of these,
which are hilarious, by the way. So you should
so
really
much.
Sign up for Nadia's newsletters.
Thank you. But see, this is the last thing I'm going to say, but this is why I only work with people who are really amazing, because they have to filter, like they get filtered through all of these things. If we don't match sort of on a humor level and sort of on an outlook level, no one will come to work with me because they're like, this woman is mad. So the person who's still listening
to this, the thing, right? Like the final parting words of wisdom, like, find you're weird because this is what it's about, right?
And you're going to have a lot of fun in your work if that's how you can segment your service sequence. And you can have that segment of people come in who's like, say no more, fam. I heard this podcast, totally got it. I thought it, and you can match there. So I think that's really important. It's not going to be the same for everyone. Of course, you have different priorities.
This is okay.
But it can be done.
You're not serving everyone and you're not for everyone. So
exactly.
So I always have one last question, but you already answered that within our conversation.
What was it?
What book are you currently reading?
Oh no, but I just finished
you
last
finished.
Night.
Oh, okay. Then I just
finished it. That's why like my eyes are literally not open yet, even though it's like midday, because I had to finish this book. It was wonderful. Now, what am I going to be reading? Now I'm having an existential crisis because of like, which one's it going to be?
I know. I'm two people, the one who buys the books, the one who reads the books.
And the one who buys, there was like, maybe at some point I'm going to find myself with like a really big chunk of time to like actually read them. You're like, no. What am I wanting to read? I do want to read, do you know David Leibovitz? He's an American chef.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
He moved to Paris maybe like 20 years ago.
Yeah, he has a gorgeous Instagram.
Gorgeous, delicious. Wonderful. And he wrote, I read a book of his a couple of years ago, Sweet Life in Paris, and it's kind of like little anecdotes, little essays and recipes.
Yeah.
And he has a new one came out a couple of years ago. It's called L'Appart, the apartment. And it's about like his journey of, moving into his new apartment in Paris. And
nice.
So I've been wanting to get into that, just kind of like a palate cleanser. And then I'm going to find my next book after that.
That sounds brilliant. We're going to link up in the show notes.
Please do.
Nadia, I don't know. I cannot even say it was a blast because it was like an explosion. It was an explosion. It was amazing to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. And we'll do it. Well, I'm looking forward to the episode where I interview you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening to the Scenic Route podcast. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode and that you can take something from it that feels right to you. I'd be so grateful if you could share the Scenic Route podcast. As always, you can head over to scenicroutepodcast.com to check out all links and resources from today's episode. Oh, and while you're there, don't forget to download my free email course, Intuitive Branding Invitation, to teach you how you can successfully tune into your own brand frequency and rediscover your brand's unique gifts, strengths, and talents. So thanks again. Talk soon.